All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to your daily dose of awesome. My name is Andrew Draughon. I will be chatting with you today. Please let me know. It seems like every time I go to do a live, there's yard work going on. So there's someone weed eating over here. If it's loud and distracting, please let me know in the comments, and I will go find some other place to chat with you guys. So today, what I want to talk about is how you guys can compete with the big dogs, even if you have a teacup Pomeranian budget, okay? Because we're living in really unprecedented times right now. It's very cool. And hello, I see the comments coming in. Hey, everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. We're living in really awesome times. And, you know, I hear from time to time folks talk about like the good old days, the glory days, you know, the Google days, right? And my contention for you is that right now is actually the best time to be building your business, even though, you know, you hear probably stories of like, oh, you know, back in the day, you know, clicks are so much cheaper and likes are so much cheaper. Yeah, I mean, sure, all that's true, but these days we have so many opportunities that did not exist back then for getting your message out, broadcasting, whatever it is you happen to be doing, whatever floats your boat, whatever your niche is, and connecting with your audience. The tools have just never existed really in human history like they do today. So again, I'm going to be talking about how you can compete with even the big dogs, even if you have a tiny teacup Pomeranian budget. Now I want to start with a bit of a story, and this is kind of cool. A lot of times when we hear about marketing and we hear, you know, case studies from the world of marketing, it's in hindsight, right? And hindsight, as we know, is 20/20, right? Hindsight's easy. It's really easy to draw conclusions from things that have already happened. I'll give you a great example. There's a really good book. I highly recommend it. It's called Good to Great. And in that book, the author, Jim Collins, talks about these kind of timeless principles that create companies that last. Now, what's funny is he published the book, I think it was like 10, 15 years ago. And then a lot of the companies that he highlighted as these exemplars of these principles and used as case studies, a lot of those companies actually tanked and like went under. So then he had to go back and update and write a new book and say, oh, well, you know what, check it out. So those companies, they deviated, right? They deviated from these standards, from these principles, and that's why they failed, right? So it's kind of funny, right? You see kind of the pattern there. It's really easy to draw conclusions in hindsight. So I'm going to give you guys kind of a little insight. This is a story I actually shared with the team at Elite Marketing Pro not too long ago, and so we're actually going to get to see a marketing campaign kind of unfold before our eyes. So Yoplait, which is a yogurt company, right? A lot of you have probably seen Yoplait on the shelves. What Yoplait experienced over the past couple years is like a complete takeover and domination of their space from the Greek yogurts, the biggest of which being Chobani, right? Chobani kind of came out of nowhere and just dominated the Greek not just the Greek yogurt space, but the entire yogurt space. And yogurt is actually, believe it or well, I mean, you probably do believe it. Yogurt's a huge industry. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. I mean, people buy a lot of yogurt, and it's actually considered to be a growth industry. People love yogurt, and even more people are discovering their love for yogurt. Now, what's interesting, though, is for a long time, the kind of more French style of yogurt, the sweeter, kind of thinner, creamier yogurt was very, very popular, the most popular. And then Chobani comes out of nowhere, and they're introducing this Greek yogurt. It's thicker, it's very tart, it's not as sweet. And what's interesting is taste tests showed again and again and again that people did not prefer Greek yogurt. They actually really didn't like Greek yogurt anywhere near as much as the yogurt they were more familiar with, the kind of thinner, sweeter yogurts. But people were buying Greek yogurt like crazy. So this was, of course, a big concern to Yoplait, and Yoplait is owned by General Mills, and General Mills is, of course, a huge company that owns lots of different brands. They have a huge R&D department, they have a huge marketing department, and they also have a lot of money to do case studies and such. And what they found when they were kind of surveying the customer base and figuring out, you know, what people essentially want in their yogurt, what came out of that research was that people, believe it or not, really value authenticity in their yogurt. People really value artisanal yogurt. People really value that sort of experience. So what Chobani had going for it was they had this kind of very authentic notion of like, hey, here's this Greek yogurt. The founder actually got a lot of publicity because he was a refugee, I believe, from somewhere. And please let me know if it seems this person weed eating is getting even closer. So let me know if this is distracting, and I'll I'll relocate. But what they found is, actually it's kind of distracting me, so maybe I'll take a little bit of a walk. So what they found is that people really liked what they saw as kind of the authenticity and again the kind of artisanal quality of Chobani yogurt. And even though they didn't really like the taste, they were really drawn and compelled to the story of the founder, who was again a refugee, and he employed at Chobani a lot of fellow refugees. So there's this really compelling narrative, and it was different, right? I mean, there's a lot to be said for just kind of being different, new, and unique in a certain marketplace. So Chobani came out of nowhere and just immediately crushed it. It dominated. They now have about a third of the entire yogurt market. So that's multiple billions of dollars. And this was a huge, of course, concern, as I mentioned, to Yoplait and General Mills. They were losing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars of market share to Chobani in very short order. So, they said, hey, what are we going to do about this? Now, initially, they kind of tried to put it sort of a Band-Aid over it, right? They tried to come out with Yoplait Greek, and then they even came out with a branded version of Yoplait with kind of a Greek-sounding name, right? It started with, it was like Yoganos or something like that, right? Like they took Yoplait and then just kind of Greekified it, okay? And those efforts just completely failed and flopped. And they've been, all of their efforts to kind of get into that space and reclaim their market share have been essentially flopping for the past couple years. But they are just about to, and I think this product is going to be hitting shelves somewhere right around now. It's probably not going to roll out, of course, at the same time all around the country, but I do believe that we're going to see their new product hit the shelves sometime. I believe it was going to hit in August, and of course it's August now. So keep your eyes peeled. So Yoplait is introducing a new product, and what they did was they kind of racked their brains and said, hey, how can we create that authentic experience? How can we give people, because as I mentioned, the artisanal qualities, the small batch kind of qualities, the microbrews, the all that kind of the maker movement stuff that's going on right now. People really love kind of that handmade experience that it is very experiential, right? Like back in the day, if you go back like 100 years, people didn't want that quality, right? People wanted the big brand stuff. That's when, around the turn of the 20th century, that's when you had things like General Mills, for instance. We mentioned General Mills a minute ago. You had things like, right, the big Acme companies, General Electric, right, the American Standard, right? Like companies wanted to be big, and they wanted to sound big, and they wanted to sound like they dominated the space, and that's what people wanted. They wanted that kind of standardization, because for their, for the entire like 19th century, everything was small and artisanal and handmade, right? And people wanted to get away from that. They wanted that mass-produced, mass-manufactured. They wanted kind of that level of quality, if you will. So now the pendulum's kind of swinging back into the direction, and people are going more towards that kind of handmade, authentic quality, as I mentioned. Okay, so what Yoplait does, they look at sort of the history of yogurt, and they look at the history of yogurt in France, and they see that, wow, the way that the people of France, this is going back hundreds and hundreds of years, all the way into like the Middle Ages, the way people would make their yogurt was they would take, the dairy product, they would take fruit, and they would just sit it out on their counter, and they would let it ferment in little glass jars. And that was how people made their yogurt for the longest time. And what's actually cool, I had a conversation with someone. We were visiting one of our kind of senior friends, and we were kind of talking about this story. And one of the women there said that, and I think she's like in her 90s, right? And she said that, when she was a girl, they used to make cottage cheese. Like it was very common for everyone just to make cottage cheese. You just leave your milk out on the counter, and all of a sudden it turns into cottage cheese, right? But no one really does that too much anymore. But like I said, it's of course experiencing this resurgence. People kind of want that quality now. Okay, so getting back to Yoplait. So what Yoplait does, they look through the history, they see that people used to make in just like little ceramic crocks or little glass vessels. They would just put their dairy product and the fruit right on the counter, and they just let it ferment. And the next thing you know, they've got yogurt, right? People have been eating yogurt for a very, very long time. And so they said, well, hey, maybe we can recreate essentially that experience. So what they're about to unveil is a new product called Oui, O-U-I, right? The French affirmative. And so this new product, Oui, is going to be sold. It's going to be a premium price product. It's going to be sold in little glass jars. It's going to be like 3 or 4 times as expensive as just like the regular thing of Yoplait. And they're going to be individually fermented. So every single one of these little vessels is going to be an individually fermented product. And it's got a cool label. I saw a picture of the label. And so this is Yoplait's essentially attempt to bring that more sort of artisanal experience. I feel like I've said that word like 1,000 times now, but it really is. I mean, that's what we're going for, is a much more experiential, instead of just like buying, again, the kind of the big box sort of product or the big brand. People want that personal touch with their products. So that's what's about to be unveiled, is this new product from Yoplait called We. So keep your eyes peeled on the shelves. It kind of, like I said, I kind of started this with the idea that it remains to be seen whether or not this initiative will be successful, right? And it'll be, hindsight's always 2020, right? So it'll be so easy in like a year from now, if this product is a smashing success, to look back and say, well, of course that was going to work, right? It was a great idea. But of course, we really don't know. And that's kind of how marketing goes in general, right? Like sometimes you can have an ad or something else, piece of content, and you think like, oh man, that's great. Like it has all the necessary ingredients, but you just never know until you put it out into the marketplace what's going to happen. You just never know how people are going to react. This is one of the reasons it's just so important to, we emphasize this all the time. Test. You just got to put stuff out there. Don't overthink it. Do your due diligence essentially and cover your bases, but you just never know sometimes when you have a winner or a loser, and then you just keep going, just keep moving forward, keep testing, and eventually you're going to find it, right? So if this new product from Yoplait, if We isn't successful, then certainly they are going to find, I got the low battery warning, so hopefully we're good for another couple minutes. So hopefully this initiative will succeed, and we can all say, we can all look and know now essentially the story behind it and go, oh, neat. Okay, so that's my idea for you. Now, how this essentially pertains to you and your business, and what's really cool about the time in which we live now and the tools that we have to build our business, is essentially that experience, that very hands-on, high-touch, experiential, artisanal kind of value that people have now, is something that you are able to deliver to your clients, unlike any of the huge companies out there, right? Like you can essentially deliver the kind of experience that's so prized. And this is cool. I mean, a lot of us watching right now are entrepreneurs. A lot of you guys are in the home business space, the direct selling space, or affiliate marketing space, right? You can, of course, deliver that very, very personal touch, right? And so much of what we do is just putting ourselves, our personality, just essentially being real and authentic and sharing, essentially, whether it's in your blog posts, your email marketing, your videos, right? Just kind of sharing the things that get you really excited, right? And just kind of essentially putting yourself out there, being your own brand, right? That is kind of that aspect that can't really be replicated, right? You can't fake that, right? Like a big company can't really do that. It's something that's unique to you, and that's sort of your unique opportunity, your life experience, your stories, all that stuff. That is essentially the well upon which you can draw to share these experiences that you'll have in common with your prospects that can really inspire and motivate them, which is really, really cool. And that's, again, something unique to each and every one of you. You all have life experience that I don't have, and conversely, I probably have some life experiences that you don't have, and that will allow me to either connect or disconnect, right, with a potential audience. So that's really cool. And the fact that the fact that I'm able to do a live video right now is really awesome, and connect with you guys. I mean, essentially, the tools that we have are just incredible. And so my encouragement for you today is to put yourself out there. Feel really comfortable. This is something that we talk about quite often, is that kind of vulnerability, really sharing your stories, sharing what makes you essentially. And that is kind of this intangible thing that literally cannot be replicated. There's no company that can do that. And that is, of course, how you guys can compete with all of the really big brands, right? All the big dogs, even if you just have this teacup Pomeranian budget, right? Because again, it's never been easier to find your audience. And it's never been easier to essentially get your story out there and inspire people. So that's my message for you today. I hope you guys dug that. It's really cool. There's actually, and if this individual happens to pick or to watch this live, then this person will know that I'm referring to them. But we just moved actually, and you can see. So I'm actually downtown Chapel Hill right now. We just recently arrived, as in the past couple days, and we moved, right? So in the town where we were, there was a local artist who I was kind of just giving, just the occasional tip about, hey, here's how you can go about getting better results essentially with your Facebook page. This person again was an artist doing kind of mixed media painting and such, and I just gave just a small amount of advice, and this person just totally was like blowing up what was going on their Facebook page, and getting just like a crazy amount of likes and engagement, and starting to do live video. So it's really cool to see someone have that opportunity today, and now clients are starting to roll in from social media, and that's such an awesome thing. And that's, again, getting back to the idea that we have that opportunity with everything. I mean, a lot of us, of course, are in the home business space, right? A lot of us are entrepreneurs, but I mean, it doesn't matter what you're into, right? You could be an artist, you could be a painter, you could be a potter. I mean, look, it's never been easier, no matter what your trade or your passion is, to essentially put what you're doing out there and find a receptive audience of people who are also excited about it. Because folks are just so, like, again, that's the value of the time we're in, right? Like, I mean, the things that are, it's like what's old is new again, right? Like, people are so excited about like sauerkraut these days, you know, and kimchi, and people are, you know, looking for that much more personal and what's even the best way to put it, but just like getting back to that idea of authenticity, right? People are just looking for that in their dining experiences. You know, people want that. You know, the site Etsy, right, with all the like handmade stuff, is like massively popular because, again, people just don't want the big generic stuff anymore. People really want that much more handmade, you know, high touch, you know, artisan stuff. So I think it's very cool. I think we're really living in some pretty awesome times right now. And so, again, I just want to encourage you guys to put your stuff out there, put yourself out there. That, again, that's your primary differentiator. Being different is such a huge thing. And the way to do that is not, of course, by sounding exactly like everyone else, but really sharing from the well of your own experience and really getting out there, inspiring people with your story. So yeah, like I said, with that is my message and encouragement for you today. And I hope that you take this, and if you're not already, really start injecting as much personality and as much authenticity and as much of yourself into everything that you're doing that you can. And it translates, again, from blog posts, emails, to your lives. Like, put you out there, because, again, that's the magic, intangible, secret spice ingredient that no one else can replicate, and that a lot of you don't even know that you have. Because I've met a lot of you at events, and a lot of you have these awesome stories. Every time I meet someone, I'm always just like, I mean, I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm always surprised by like just how cool, right? Like, it's like you guys have such cool stories, and you guys have done such awesome things with your lives, and I know, like, I'm interested in hearing about that. I know other folks are too. So with that, everyone, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you next time.